You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring will be here soon, so if buying a new home is on your to-do list, right now is the time to call Quicken Loans. Learn about which mortgage options make sense for you and get a jump on your competition. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For JD Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hi, welcome to the Subway ad for the new Sesame Ginger Glazed Chicken Signature Wrap. How would you like it?
I'll take a...
Sports announcer at home?
Yeah, how'd you...
We just know.
My wife picks up the new Signature Wrap. It's got double the rotisserie-style chicken mix with a sesame ginger glaze. She appears annoyed at me, but she shrugs it off. Those sweet and savory flavors are calling her name. She lifts the wrap and... she takes the bite! Incredible! And now she's closing the door on my... Subway, make it what you want.
Limited time only at participating restaurants. Double meat basement, average 6-inch sub.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Thoughts of suicide may feel impossible to overcome, but with help and support, you can find hope and meaning. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK to speak to a counselor, or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. It's free, it's confidential, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even if it feels like it, you're not alone.
It's been a long, bumpy ride sitting back in the saddle. It's time to get down, dirty up our knees into battle. Oh, come on, round up the boys, gonna make the walls rattle. Oh, our flag is tattered and our bones are shattered, but it doesn't matter 'cause we're moving forward. Round 'em up, let's go. Round 'em up, let's go.
And good evening. This is Cyber Wars, and it's all very funny. That's why I have the funny guys with me tonight. 40 Packard and Stoner Jeff. You guys go ahead and say hey, because I'm so brain dead. I know. I'm so fuzz-brained right now. It's not even funny. How about you guys? Uh-huh. Yeah, and of course, Orly wouldn't be the only one that's like, I mean, you'd think that I changed my video cards, but I didn't. They're the same. Everything is the same. Nothing changed. Yeah, actually, everything seemed to be working great with you, Jeff. Huh. What the? Air quote. Yeah. I like to say I'm professional-ish. Yeah. Right, exactly. Well, we're like, I was like, screw this, I'm gonna, um, oh, okay. And Jeff's just saying, like, nobody can hear you guys. All right, let's try this one more time. Say something, Orty.
Something, Orty.
Oh, right. We're cool. And I don't know how I did it, but my setup is like, I don't know. I'll be able to hear myself in a second. So you guys in the chat room, don't worry about it too much. So let's go back. Say hi, Orty.
Hi, Orty.
Right. Everybody heard me say I'm professional-ish. So, but Orty was
Ish.
telling ish, right? So, and clearly ish, because I didn't notice that there's no sound feeding when Orty's talking. Go figure. Yeah, like and I warned you guys coming in that I'm fuzzy brained, and you know what we need to do when we're fuzzy brained, and probably before we tell the story again. So we're just gonna do it.
This program contains coarse language and adult themes. Parental discretion is advised. Naughty words and boobs. These are like Zastrovia.
Which is like the perfect content
Right.
warning for today because we might be talking about Russians a little bit tonight. So,
Again, yeah.
right, again, we're we were telling the story of our sound. Orty was telling the story of the sound check, and it was about sound cards.
Yeah, because for some reason replacing your video card screwed up all of my sounds. Nothing was where it was, and I didn't change anything but my video card. But for some reason, I could hear. They couldn't hear. No, they could hear me, but I couldn't hear them. And then we go through all this sound check fiasco, and then right before we go on the air, Lou says, "I'm going to do a soft reboot of my router." And I said, "No, if it ain't broke, don't fuck with it. Let's
Right,
just go."
exactly.
You know, yeah, it's like that. It's like that. Bill O'Reilly. Fuck it, we're doing it live.
Well, and before that, we just like hot switch audio channels. I'm like, screw it, I'm going to use this one. Right. So connected with Orty, and it's working. And I didn't even realize it's 8 minutes till airtime. And Orty's like, oh, cool. Okay, I'm going to go get my drink. And I'm like, he's going to go, are we about to, oh, shit. It's 8 minutes till, right? So that's why I played the content warning, because I knew that was about to pop out. So anyway, yeah.
Welcome to Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's from our book of We Do It Too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then some, right? Because the more tech you have, the more you have to screw up. And the more you will screw up, and the more we do screw up. So, we do it too. Yeah, it's been a great week. And it's Monday, and it's been a great week. Yay.
Well, it's like, for those who were listening on Jux last week, my video card went out, and that's why I hadn't been on Twitter for 4 days, because, if you have a really complicated password that even you don't remember, and then you put it in a text document because you don't remember it, probably a good idea to upload it to the cloud so that way you can have it on your other devices if anything goes wrong. So that's why I've been missing all weekend. But last Friday I had to do Jux doing research on a tablet while doing other research on a Fire tablet while doing the show on my phone. And yeah, that was first world problems.
Yeah, yeah, live radio problems. Without a doubt, live radio problems. So, yeah, it's already interesting. So there's no telling what's going to happen tonight, and we've got a couple of stories to cover. I think what I think would be really fun, especially after all that, is you guys go ahead and start with the browser stories, because that's really interesting. And the other ones are so dramatic, right?
Right.
It's the Georgia, because the Georgia-Russia thing is like super dramatic. And really couldn't be more dramatic, and it's a lot to unpack too. And the whole it's not hacking if nobody's doing it thing. That ought to be pretty interesting too. So let's talk about the browsers first, because that's fun.
All right, Jen, if you want to start, since you have the more time with the new hotness.
Yes, there is a new browser, quote unquote, still in kind of early access, called Opera GX. Now, Opera is an older web browser that many of you may have heard before, but now they've geared it up for gaming, and I have to say I've been playing around with it for a week, and I fucking love it. It has a bit of a modern look to it, modern feel. You can really change the color schemes, and the features on this browser that is mainly geared for quote-unquote gaming, but I'll talk about more what can actually be done with it. It's blowing my mind what it's capable of doing.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who are Mac users, and their backup browser has always been Opera because it does have a really elegant, UI and UX, and it's really Opera's always been a good browser, not a huge market share of the browser market, but that they've come out with this gaming version, the GX is.
I honestly think this is a very big game-changing web browser. Besides being integrated with Twitch, not Twitchy, but Twitch, the gaming and video streaming service, it features limiters. So while you're playing a game, you can limit your web browsing video pool. So if you only want to do 2 megabytes of download, or if you don't want to use more than, say, 5% of your memory or CPU, it can limit that. Most importantly, it comes with a VPN and ad blocker, so even if you're watching YouTube or the wonderful ads at ESPN, they can get blocked, so you don't have to sit through all that garbage. And it's a clean look, and something I just discovered tonight that's actually not for gamers necessarily is you get a personal news section where you can select what news you want to read, like Fox News Politics, Business Insider, USA Today. And then they have categories like art, business, entertainment, food, gaming, motoring, science, sports, technology, and travel. And there's just a large selection. Like, how many times you ever see the Blaze listed on any of these pull downs for this stuff? The Blaze is actually mentioned, NPR is mentioned, U.S. News, Vox, Smithsonian History and Archaeology. So that you can really put your front page whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I noticed also for their gaming sections too, they had Tech Raptor, Escapist, and some other gaming news sites too. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, and the one thing they're working on, which I really can't wait, is if you're playing a game because I actually installed this on my son's computer, they're working on video over game. So if you're playing a game, you can watch walkthroughs and tutorials or people streaming that game themselves over top the actual game. So
that's actually really cool.
It's actually, my son saw it, and he was amazed with the color, but B, when he learned he didn't have to watch any more Tom Steyer or Bloomberg ads while watching YouTube, he wanted me to download it and install it immediately.
Yeah, I did some testing with that browser. I did some with Vanilla Opera, and then with the new browser we're going to talk about later too. And the gaming one actually did block out YouTube ads completely. Yes. Just completely nuked them, where Vanilla Opera did some, and the other ones we're going to talk about didn't do it really at all. But yeah, and the interface too. I mean, it goes beyond just your basic dark and light.
Yes. It's just a customization of it and what you can and can't do. Like, even at the main page, it tells you what video games are coming out in the near future. Because they're even offering some discounts through Opera GX for video games, and you can just select whether it's Windows or PC or Xbox or PlayStation 4 games that you're interested in. It's a great utility. I wasn't expecting much when we first got wind of it, but I've been loving this thing.
Yeah, I even kind of joked. So, did we ask for this? Was this something we wanted? And then you kind of tore into it. And my friend who turned me onto it before I turned us, you guys onto it, he was like, "Oh no, seriously, you guys got to check this out." And I'm really impressed just with the little bit that I've played in it.
Yeah, the VPN, which is great because you can, with the VPN part, it's only for the browser. It's not for your whole computer. So if you're playing LAN games or direct connect games, it doesn't interfere with that. And you can actually turn VPN off for searches, search engines. So if you go to Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever, it will give you more localized content. So if you're looking for a part, it'll pull up more of your stores near your IP. So you have some control in that aspect of it as well. And the ad blockers, if you go to a page, there's a little icon up at the right, like a little shield. It can tell you if any ads were blocked on it. And if you go to a site that you go, hey, you know what, this person makes money by their ads and it's a good site, you can turn the ad blocker off for that specific site as well.
Now, I didn't notice if it had it in the gaming. I know in the Opera itself that it has some deep ties to cryptocurrency wallets too.
Yes.
Where if you have third-party cryptocurrency wallets, you can actually put them into your browser as well.
Yes, I haven't played around with it, but I have looked at the features, and there are a couple things you can do in the cryptocurrency avenue with it.
That's really cool. Yeah, Opera's always been on a back burner. It's been like not my primary or secondary, but it's always been on my computer just in case. It's if I want to, I don't know, just not have it in a browser memory or whatever. So right. It's always been on my computer.
I think the last time that I used it, and I guess this is proof that I have, security is not necessarily a new thing for me. I've just gotten better at it recently. But I used to use it and I liked it like way back in the day. But there was a period of time, and let me just say before I start this that they've gotten past that period of time. But there was a short period of time around 2012, 2013 that they did have a lot of security problems, and I believe that was the time that I stopped using it. I remember specifically deleting it from a laptop that I had around that time, which was back then it was the only laptop I had. I wish I could say that was the case now that I only have one, but yes, but they've gotten past that, and their recent history in security is actually really good. So
yeah, it's been one of those. They were really catching up in market share back in the day. That's when the second browser wars started, because that's when Google Chrome started to come on, and and that was they took a hit for a while and they lost a lot of market share for that. And now they're they haven't reached 10% yet, but they're they're starting to get traction, and I think that the Opera GX is really going to help them with that too.
Yeah, I was impressed with their recent lack of vulnerabilities and exposures, and so that was pretty impressive. So I'm definitely gonna, and I haven't yet, but I'm looking forward to giving it a try because you guys, it was kind of fun to watch you guys check it out and review it and post your screenshots and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that one. Microsoft is doing something pretty interesting. Really shocked by this.
I was really shocked by this too. This actually just dropped. It started on mobile devices at the beginning of the year. Then it was on Xbox about 3 weeks ago, and now they just released it for PC. And what Microsoft has done is they have completely shit-canned their entire line of Internet Explorer through Edge Current, and they have switched to a Chromium-based engine as well on their Microsoft Edge. They've been really hounded for more transparency in their browser, so what they've done is they've done what every other browser except for Safari and Firefox has done, and they have based their browser on the Chromium tool set, which is an open source tool set. A lot of people say, well, that's still just Google Chrome. Okay. Chromium is fun. The idea behind it was started by Google, and there's other companies in it too, like Adobe and IBM and Microsoft and a couple others. And what it is it's open source, is that anybody can develop anything they want for it. They can make security fixes, ad blockers, whatever, improve its performance, kind of like with Unix and Linux systems where they're open source as well. And then Chrome takes that and they take the most stable version of it that they can, and then that's what they incorporate into Google Chrome. And that's when they start to put in all their spying tools and ingraining themselves into every facet of your life. But other Chromiums don't. They kind of brand themselves a little bit, because Brave is based on Chromium, Opera GX now, and now Edge, Vivaldi as well, which is another browser that's starting to get notice, especially in the mobile market. But it was really surprising that after being the winner of the first round of browser wars, because they are the ones who knocked Netscape into the dust. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, Netscape actually had to completely just shut down, rebrand, and Mozilla went, okay, we're going to start with Firefox. Well, then it was called Phoenix, but then they got sued on that name. But anyway, so Netscape completely, nobody talks about it anymore. They talk about it when they, remember Ask Jeeves fondly as well. So until Chromium started getting developed, Internet Explorer was it. And this is really great now with Edge being on Chromium as a developer, because when we would used to build websites, we would have to build it for all the different types and flavors.
Even between the same browsers.
Yeah, even between the same. Internet Explorer was the worst at it, because you would code a website for Internet Explorer 5, and it would totally break Internet Explorer 4. So, But with Chromium now, they're all on one basic development branch, and then everything they do after that is just paint it with their own colors. It's like when you go to a Hobby Lobby and you just get that plain wood, blob, and then you paint it however you want. And that's what, a lot of the browsers are becoming now too. They all have similar security features and vulnerabilities as well. But the one thing that Edge did is that it has tied itself in, as Microsoft loves to do. Its security also comes from Windows Defender and Windows Smart Screen, like a lot of browsers do, but it's in that layer. So it's decent security, but it's at the whim of whenever a security update comes along with Windows. Now, the thing that I found interesting too is that I just did a fresh install of Windows 10 on a client's computer with a version of Windows that I downloaded on Friday from Microsoft's site. It still had old Edge in it. I had to go and download new Edge. And that's the other thing. Trying to download the new Edge, you're not going to find it really easily on Microsoft's site. It's like they're not, they're out there, but you only notice it if you get a extension for it. And to get extensions for it too, you have to go to the Microsoft store instead of the Google Chrome store like the other ones. Other Chromium browsers, they work fine with the Google store. Like if you have Brave or Opera, you can go to the Google extension store to get your extensions. But of course, Microsoft being Microsoft, you have to go to the Microsoft store. And at this time, most of the extensions are just goddamn wallpapers. So, but it's interesting they've gone that route, and I played around with it a bit today. The one thing I liked that it did too is if you have multiple Windows devices, you're familiar with sync settings, where it will sync your, wallpaper and your Windows settings from one computer to the next. So if you have multiple devices, or if you use your Windows account in multiple locations, you only have the one login. Not like you log in with your Windows account, and then you open up your Chrome, and then you have to log in with your Chrome too to get all your bookmarks and everything back. So it's pretty cool that
I'm glad they did it for a lot of reasons. Like you said, it's kind of the foundation that the browsers have all built their house on, right? So it makes development easier. So there's that I think it's going to improve the web application experience for people in Edge, and I think it's gonna improve the security situation for people.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
yeah, from a malware perspective, Windows is a hot mess anyway, and yeah,
Well,
the browser it just made it worse.
Well, you were talking about, Opera's security hole they had for a while. Internet Explorer had a security hole that went unfixed for 284 days.
Yep.
So
that's
yeah, that's the better part of a year. And this was after they won the browser wars too. So they were kind of the only game out there with a giant goddamn hole in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So
well, and there was a time, right? And I remember this well because I was very much an early adopter from this perspective. Nobody downloaded a different browser. Everybody used Windows, and everybody used Explorer because, I mean, nobody did that, right? And it's and it's not like that there wasn't any, but it was Firefox. And what's Firefox? I mean, it was years.
Firefox is just Netscape too.
Well, no, but I mean, my point was it was years that someone would say, this isn't working, this isn't working. Well, download Firefox. It's going to work better. And what's Firefox? Right? I mean, it's like it was years and years that people didn't know that. So I was an early adopter from that perspective. But I mean, just nobody did that. Everybody just went with Explorer. There was huge holes in it. And I mean, and that's one huge hole. And that might have been the longest one. But it might not be the longest one. I mean, they've got some holes that have still never been fixed in Explorer. And there was a point where we started this conversation with Edge. They just built a new browser, but because they couldn't fix all the holes, they couldn't keep up with all the holes. It's just like vulnerability after. It's like fix one and they find another one. Fix one, but it's break something else. So, I mean, from a malware perspective, it's like you could pretty much throw any malware on a site, and there's no way that you're going to use Explorer and go by that site and not get it.
Yeah, it's
horrible.
It's going to be weird going forward. The last week was the last time I think I will ever say Microsoft Edge is really good for downloading another browser. It can get to Google's download site faster than any other.
Yeah. Right, because it knows where it is. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it's literally been decades. The only thing that I used a Microsoft browser for
was getting another
browser. Exactly.
Right.
I mean, fresh install, new image. That's all I did with it.
Yep.
Yeah, and changed the default immediately. But this is probably one of the smarter things that they've done in a really long time.
Yeah, now they just need to complete the Windows as a service thing, so we never have to buy another copy of Windows again, which they're already talking about. But I just dread that they're going to do a $6 monthly or something like that. But
God, yeah, probably.
I mean, Windows as a service is already at the enterprise level. I don't imagine it'll be long before it's at the consumer level.
It's gonna be really crappy for virtual machines.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna. I don't know how they're gonna manage that. I hope that they put
magic and fairy dust.
Yeah, I hope they put virtual machine images out there that you can buy, or somebody's gonna do a Microsoft Linux image or something. I mean that. I wish somebody would do that. Actually, I mean that would just like catch all their malware so you could use it for a malware lab. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm about to go super geek. Anyway.
But, Rooster just said in the chat, too many browsers. And yes, that's true, but it's nice that they're all based on the same thing. That's like saying there's too many cookies. They're all made out of flour, sugar, and egg, but find the one you like. Not everybody likes pecan sandies.
I think that's a really good way to put it. It's not that there's too many browsers; it's that there's more choice. That's like saying again to go super geek. That's like saying there's too many Linux distros. Well, what are you gonna do? You're not right. Exactly. You're not gonna make me use Kali because it's not my last choice of Linux distros, but it's definitely not my first. But it's
I miss my Mandrake.
It's everybody. All right. It's everybody else's favorite. Everybody loves Kali. I don't.
Yeah, on that line too. If you're really if you like Google Chrome, you will like but you just don't want to have all of Google up in your world. But then go with Opera because or Opera GX. But it was Opera that has actually forced Google, because they both use Chromium, forced Google to make all of the user interface changes that they have. So if you like Chrome now, you would have liked Opera 2 years ago because Chrome now is Opera 2 years ago. So keep that one in mind. That if you want to see what's coming down the pipe for UI UX. Use Opera because they're the trendsetter. They were the first ones to have tabs. They were the first one to have built-in ad blocker and a lot not automatically start videos on websites and things like so. A lot of the quality of life things we like with Chrome actually came from Opera. So
that's a really good point. So for quality of life, user experience, especially gaming and graphics and things like that. Opera and Control, right? Opera's going to be probably your choice of what you're going to want to go with. At least try it out and see. If you use a lot of Google products and that's what you do and you don't care about being spied on, or you're happy with the extensions that they have to turn off some of their spying, then go with Chrome. If you are so super focused on your privacy and not being spied on, look at Brave. Or you could be super geek and have all three of them and use them for the different things.
4 of them now because you got Edge too. I'm
glad Microsoft did that, but I'm not using Edge. I'm sorry. I'm still not using it.
I mentioned Vivaldi earlier. For those of you who don't know what it is, if you're running out of space on your mobile device, Vivaldi is really what you should be using for a browser because it's stripped down. It doesn't have ad blockers. It doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles. But if you just need a browser on your mobile device, or if you have one of those HP laptops, those little laptops that have exactly 8 gigs of storage on them, then that's actually a good browser for you because it doesn't have all of the bloat that all the other browsers have. And it's really quick and it's really agile, but it is bare bones. You get a search engine and, a web code decoder, and that's about it.
Yeah, right, and it pretty much, doesn't it pretty much look like Chrome, Google search when your wireless isn't working real well and it's like broken down to text.
It's not that bad, but it's pretty bare bones.
All right.
But yeah, and it does have a lot of security features too. It's invested all of its bulk into security features, not into bloatware. So just put it out there. If you're looking at your phone and you're at 63 or 64 gigs, you might want to uninstall Chrome and put Vivaldi on.
All right, good stuff. So we're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about, the drama in the news. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Cuts right down to the marrow, but there's no doubt we'll get out from the bottom of the barrel. Oh, our flag is tattered and our bones are shattered, but it doesn't matter 'cause we're moving forward. Round 'em up, let's go. Round 'em up.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
The harder you push, the rougher I'll get. 'Cause I'm not shaking when the earth starts quaking. Got my own foundation with no hesitation, and the all eyes are seeing red. Double vision from the blood we shed. The only way I'm leaving is dead. That's the state of my state.
Hi, we're back. Yeah, we were having a discussion about what we're going to talk about when we were coming back to the first thing. We did get to the Georgia thing, so that conversation is going to be really interesting because the three of us haven't really discussed it yet. So you're going to hear like the raw discussions that we have here on the air. But so there was a minor fiasco. I would call it a minor fiasco, but and there have been some really good points made on the news in writing, but a lot of it I've seen in the interviews that, especially with the Fox News reporters, because, you know, they get to a different story. They have a different agenda than CNN and the other places that have been blowing it up. But so we heard, and I think, if I remember correctly, we heard right before, and it was within a few hours of each other, so it's kind of hard to track which one happened first. But it was on Thursday or Friday, if I remember correctly, that the news about the intelligence community briefing Congress and the Sanders campaign on Russian interference in the elections and things that they were trying to do and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, you know, we know the stories. They're trying to influence the election, and you know, they're planning chaos and whatnot. And that was pretty much the briefing that was had, and we'll get into that in a second. But that started coming out I think around Thursday, and Bernie had actually kind of sort of alluded to it during the debate, but he was briefed, however, a month ago. Congress was briefed sometime in the latter part of the week, and then they leaked it to the press, of course, because it was the House Intelligence Committee was briefed, so of course it leaked to the press. But the House Intelligence Committee was briefed in general on so the Sanders campaign was briefed on specifically Putin's interference in favor of their campaign, right? Because this is the appropriate counterintelligence briefing for a campaign to get. That's what they do. That was the big drama during Trump Russia, is they never told Trump about it until way late in the game when they were trying to basically social engineer him. I think he was already president.
Yeah, they were trying to hang him with it at that point.
Exactly. And Comey was like trying to do a super spook thing with him. And then they go, so a month later, they go to Congress, to the Intelligence Committees. The Senate, I believe, was probably present. It was probably a joint briefing. I'm not positive about that. But I do know that Schiff and Schiff's staff was there, because this came out in the interviews that happened over the weekend. And they were briefed on it. And of course, when it's leaked to the Post, there's all this drama about Putin is interfering in favor of Trump. And they do it, you know, late in the week, Friday afternoon, maybe even. Because, you know, it's the Friday PM news drops that they do. So over the weekend, there was tons and tons of drama about it. And, you know, luckily for the president, he's got the national security advisor that he has now. Being a hostage negotiator, I don't think it could be any more of appropriate experience for the person that's in that position right now, because, I mean, I've never seen a hostage situation quite like this one. But he comes out to the press and pretty much says, yeah, first of all, we haven't gotten any briefings, right? So we haven't gotten this briefing. So if Putin is interfering, if Russia's interfering in favor of the president, number one, we should have gotten that briefing. We should have gotten that briefing before it went to Congress, and we haven't. So Bernie gets his briefing a month before. The president never gets one. This is Trump Russia all over again. The president never gets one. And then the Congress gets their briefing. But something really interesting, so it comes out over the weekend and into Monday, that what happened, and I think it was yesterday afternoon, that article that I sent you from CNN, where they admitted how wrong they got the story. It was, I think, 2 hours old when I sent it to you, so it had happened within a 2-hour window. So that was yesterday afternoon that they finally admitted, because Fox News had dug into it over the weekend, and the news had actually, I was sitting here watching the interviews when it happened. I believe that actually Friday night with one of the primetime host is when it started to come out, and then Saturday during the day it started coming out even more. But tell that story a little bit, Ordy, because you did
Yeah,
it really well.
yeah. Basically, what this all comes back to is that a member of the okay, a member of the DNI went and briefed the House Intelligence Committee on Russian interference in the 2020 election, but they had done it in such a way that it lacked the actual new. It's like they were trying one of those things where you try to dumb it down for Congress to the point where they can understand it. But in this case, it led to the impression. It led to the impression that Russia was directly interfering in helping Trump get reelected, and that so this got the House Intelligence Committee, who are just so wonderful at their job. They obviously go out and start leaking. But I mean, even CNN has come out and said, "Look, we've talked to everybody in the DNI. They overstated that case." Or they left the nuance out that it's like, no, Russia is being a chaos agent.
And they did.
It's what they
and CNN did say.
To their credit, CNN said, it was way overstated, even in the headline.
But they also said that it was leading questions by members of Congress, which I mean, we can write that script, right?
Right.
That actually led to those
the overstatement of the
right,
it's
exactly.
Like well, are they doing it to help Trump? Well, I mean, I guess that meme could okay, so they're helping Trump, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, but like you had mentioned too, is that they're also doing it for Bernie Sanders at the in the interest of making him the DNC nominee, because Russia is a chaos agent. This is what they have always excelled at.
But if you watched CNN, MSNBC, and CNBC on Friday night, you would have thought that Russia was actively hacking the DNC at that moment, right?
Right.
So you would think that the DNC was mid-incident response, stopping Russian hackers from getting into their network.
Yeah, and that's kind of once again, a lie can get halfway around the world before the truth can get its boots on. So Friday night, all of the news channels are completely hyperbolic and apoplectic about how Russia is interfering in the 2020 election, and then a not very well read story that was updated at 5 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, yesterday, talks about how it was overstated. Yes. So they had that whole weekend to get the propaganda out of it they wanted, and then it's like we always see on social media where the initial lie gets 100,000 retweets, but the correction on it gets 4.
Right, or back in the day, and the Times is great for this, but everybody's hometown paper does it. The front page headline, above the fold headline, has an error. The retraction is on section B. 12.
Yeah, page 20 below the missing pet.
Right, exactly. So, it's that kind of thing, but it was like, to me, it's like the congressional version of a staged Twitter fight.
Right.
I mean, honestly, they were like, they created the narrative that they wanted out of the briefing, and the poor girl that is, and her name escapes me right now, but I looked her up. It doesn't sound...
Are you talking about Shelby Pearson?
Yes, thank you, Shelby Pearson. It doesn't sound like she intentionally misled anybody. It doesn't sound like she went in wanting to lead Congress down that road. And it really actually doesn't sound like Congress was intended to get anything different than the president already had, than the National Security Advisor already had on his desk, right? But that's at least possible. But she was made to look like she was, at best, not capable of doing her job, and at worst, biased.
Yeah, I mean, this did lead to a weekend of mudslinging to where even the president waded in, saying there are these reports that they want Bernie Sanders to get elected president. So that's no surprise. He honeymooned in Moscow. So, and
Well,
that's just it.
and it's Trump. He's gonna do stuff like
I
that,
know that's
right?
just Trump. I mean,
And that
that's
was
just Trump being Trump.
and that was evidently, come to find out today, that was a different matter, right? So they put the president in a position to, and the media, and I mean this is partly his fault. He should not let the media pull him around by the nose like that. He just
Oh,
shouldn't.
90% of the time, it's the other way
He is
around.
who
So
it,
that's
well, that's true, and he is who he is. Right, you're right, absolutely, and like he has good reason to most of the time, um, but yeah, but this was I mean, it's almost as if it was manipulated for that purpose, right?
no
So,
probably.
I mean, he trolls them enough. Maybe they were trolling him. He's certainly done it to them. Um, so, who knows? But this is the fact, and this is the fact that I've been wanting to get to, and the reason that we're doing this story to begin with. The Nobody is helping. Putin's already said it. Putin is out to cause chaos and disruption and dissent among us, right? What he loves more than anything is to see the fights that people have in the news, and whether it's
Well,
our usual stuff or whether it's blown out of proportion because of some false information that he put out there. He really loves it if it's false information that they created.
Well, and this goes with our next story.
Absolutely.
The GRU cyber attacks in Georgia, and we're not talking about the state of Georgia for a change. We are actually talking about the country of Georgia.
For a change.
See, right. So, I mean, aside from Putin trying to cause chaos, or Russia trying to cause chaos in our election, they are really love doing it close to home. And we've talked about Ukraine, the power outages in Ukraine and the cyber attacks of Russia against Ukraine, of Georgia, Estonia, all of his neighbors.
Sandworm, who was evidently they believe
Sandworm,
was responsible for this.
not Petya, which did $10 billion worth of damage to Ukraine infrastructure.
Right.
Olympic destroyer malware that sabotaged the 2018 Olympics in Pyongyang. Yeah, it over and over again. We keep defaulting back to the GRU and their cyber units. And in this case, finally, and this kind of makes sense in the fact that we've always had an opinion when somebody aggresses against another nation's borders. Aside from the previous administration when Georgia and Ukraine lost a significant amount of territory to Russia.
Right.
But this is the first time we've actually started to have opinions about cyber attacks, which I think is because a country's cyber infrastructure is every bit as as much theirs as their physical territory.
It is part of the territorial integrity, and I think that we'll see those policies develop over time, but they will never develop if sovereign nations don't start drawing a line over them or on them. So, and I don't know, I've deleted it now. I don't know if any of you saw the territorial integrity thread that I did last week or over the weekend. But it is a thing. It is a thing that is covered extensively in the UN Charter. And think what you want to about the UN, but it is where we get some of our standing to do certain things, right? And it's where we get some of our backing from other countries to force countries like Iran, or not Iran, or maybe some other country to act appropriately, to not do certain things, to, release prisoners that they've been holding, or things like that. So, it can be used. that the UN Charter can be used to our benefit. And when it comes to, there is no greater benefit than our territorial integrity. And our cyber infrastructure, as Orty said, is part of that. Russia has been invading their neighbors' sovereign territory, cyber territory, for as long as they've had the internet.
Well, what I think actually prompted us to pop our heads up and say, okay, that's enough of this shit, was back during the NotPetya worm that hit the Ukraine, that actually moved into companies like Maersk, Merrick, Federal Express, and it went after the White House. It went after
NotPetya was huge, and it wasn't just huge in and of itself. It was there were variants of it that moved into the wild, and if you that just means that a malware or a virus is out there in the open and it's kind of running wild.
It's no longer under the control of its handlers. You think of a tiger that gets away from you. It's or a virus that mutates. When it gets out into the wild and it mutates, and then it starts, and then anybody kind of picks it up and does what they like.
Exactly. So it was like last October, November, right, that these cyber attacks were going on. Right? And one thing that they did was, so they did a lot of their usual, and this is this particular story, and I tweeted it this morning because so it's on my timeline, because we were looking at doing, or last night, we were looking at doing this today. So they did a lot of their usual, and the really interesting thing, and I'll say this, is when we were talking about some of the things that the Iranian hackers were doing, just going after like little websites and that really didn't matter all that much, and then hitting a government website here and there. They were doing some of the same kind of stuff. They were just blanket taking out. One of the quotes was, the target, and this was from CrowdStrike, but it's actually a good quote. The targets and the end result don't matter as much as the chaos that they create along the way.
Yeah, and in this particular op too, was they defaced a lot of websites, and what they put up was the deposed Georgian president who had to flee the country in exile. His photo with the Georgian flag and "I'll be back," which so that's
now
and again that's being a chaos agent.
Yeah, Shalikashvili, and he is this. And this is the really interesting thing about that, is he was one of the people that were, interestingly enough, because he was convicted for corruption, but he was one of the people calling out the corruption in Ukraine. He was one of the first people to throw up a red flag at the amount of our money that was just disappearing in that country, and how corrupt the NABU, the anti-corruption investigation unit that the U.S. Embassy set up, was. Shalikashvili, he had a big role in raising the red flags on that. And so for them to use him at that time during that attack was really fascinating for me. But again, it just points to that, especially when it comes to sandworm. And I don't think this is something that we really actually ended up talking about when we talked about them.
We talked about doing sandworm, but then we kind of moved on to the Middle East.
Oh, okay, so we didn't actually do... Oh, we might have to come back.
No, we never did sandworm.
We might have to come back and do them next week then, because NotPetya was huge. And it wasn't just huge for a couple of months. It was huge for like 18 months, 24 months. It was really destructive. And so that would be a really good one to do. But that is a lot of their MO. And that is exactly what NotPetya was. It was about chaos. And that particular virus, that that malware, probably caused close to as much chaos as Stuxnet did, and it for a single malware, it caused a lot of chaos, and it was
Well, it's like I said, it did 10 billion worth in Ukraine alone, and that was before it got out into the wild and started going after American concerns.
absolutely. There are Twitter accounts out there that were created just to track that malware. So you don't see that often just for a single malware. So I mean, it was really important. It was a big deal. So was it 3 or 4 days ago? The NATO nations, especially, right? Because did you notice that the first countries to come out and say, yeah, we know this was you, cut it the fuck out, were NATO nations? Yeah.
Yeah, U.S. Cyber Command and the piece of Wired that we're referencing from, they actually said, well, we don't know that it's Russia, but it's in the area, wink, wink. So,
Right.
And
that was, but
so,
when the statements came out and people started really talking about it, they were like, yeah, we know it was Russia. And another interesting thing about it is they hit 2 television stations, talk about causing chaos.
Right.
Take the news off the air. And, the editors were like in chats with people saying, yeah, our network is completely down. We can't do anything. We can't edit. We can't broadcast. We can't do anything. So, I mean, that you hit the news, you're going to cause some chaos. That's like hitting a power grid.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's meant to cause chaos. That is their end game. That is their end game, and that is what they're doing. I think part of the timing of it is about the elections. I mean, one reason that they said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and call these people out because, I mean, there's a lot of talking. Even if you just look at Twitter, you see the same players pushing the Russia hoax that push some of the crazy Brexit stuff. And there is a Russia document. There's a lot of the same stuff going on in the UK. Well, the first 2 statements came out by the US and the UK. I believe they were the first 2 countries to make a statement, right?
saying, knock it off!
Yes, even before Georgia did, I believe the US and the UK were the first 2. So, I believe that the elections and election interference is part of it. And there are upcoming elections, I believe, over the summer in Georgia as well. So I think this election interference does have at least a little bit to do with why they chose to go ahead and make a statement and draw a line on this. And the Wired really annoyed me, and I've seen them do this on several stories. For instance, the one that we kind of didn't talk about tonight because we waived it because it was just too stupid was the Katie Hill hacker story.
Yeah.
Wired reported that and refused to name the campaign.
Oh my God, really?
That the hacker actually worked for. But so while we're here, we'll just say that one of Katie Hill's staffers' husbands was arrested for a DDoS attack. And calling him a hacker, this is the last time I'm going to ever call him a hacker. He's going to be the skid from Katie Hill's campaign. So it's the skid with Katie Hill's campaign used like the most trackable possible DDoS tool.
Out of the box, just yeah.
Yeah, that he deployed on an Amazon Web Services server. And if you have ever used it, you don't get one of those without giving them your real information. So it was
a stool sample.
Right, exactly. It's not quite that hard. But they know who you are. Amazon knows who the hell is creating accounts on their servers because you're partitioning their servers, basically. I mean, for lack of a better term, when you get an account with them, they know who the hell you are.
Well, here's the
They know more
funniest
about
thing
you than
about
you
it.
do.
Right.
Yeah, but they also tracked his location, his accounts, his logins were all tracked to him at his work and his residence. So I mean, if you can't triangulate that.
Let's talk about the dumbest thing out of all of it. And this is what raises the red flags all along. Everybody that was in the primary against Katie Hill at the time got a DDoS attack except for Katie Hill's campaign. If you're going to go around and vandalize all your competition, throw a brick through your own window too to take the suspicion off of yourself.
Seriously. Okay, so there's a story from way back in the day that this reminds me of. The guy that actually ended up turning in Chelsea Manning. The reason that he was an informant for the FBI to begin with is because he worked with a guy in California doing the exact same thing to all his competition. Well, they knew who was doing it because the only guy in the industry in that area that wasn't getting attacked was him.
Right.
So, I don't know who might be paying this hacker to hack to DDoS these sites. I mean, it's just so freaking obvious. And so you're right. That absolutely is probably the dumbest thing about the whole fiasco. So, that fiasco that we chose not to talk about, but ended up talking about. Right? So that was the one Wired story. And then this Wired story comes out and says, right, so after 8 years of Obama doing absolutely nothing about any of this, right? So Russia takes down the Ukrainian power grid. Meh. They invade Ukraine. Meh. Yeah, exactly. The Chinese set up an advanced persistent threat group in California. Meh. Yeah, meh. Whatever. That Trump is in office for a year. Sets up, expands, that doesn't really start it, but it expands Cyber Command. It looks like it has nobody ever even thought it would ever look. I mean, he started in January, right after his inauguration, right? He starts in January, almost as soon as he comes in, completely overhauling our cyber defense. He's done more for our cyber defense and offense, by the way, than any president ever thought about doing. I mean, 100 times.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. We'd only be talking about 4 presidents there, but the point is there,
right? But if we go back all the way to the very beginning of the internet, we could be talking about 5 presidents. I don't know. I can't count that high right now. You said there would be no maths.
I didn't say that.
But still, 100 times Bush, 1,000 times Obama. And Wired actually says that he finally did something about not Patea when it left Ukraine. I'm like, dude, what do you is this guy is supposed to stop a virus that's like 50% Stuxnet? Number one, it was stupid, and it annoyed me a little bit, if you can't tell.
We're going to have to do a story on Stuxnet too, because we haven't talked about that one. We've alluded to it on several shows.
Yeah, mentioned it.
Watch the movie 0 Days. We'll do like a book club.
Okay.
But it's a movie club. Everybody watch the movie 0 Days, and we'll talk about it.
All right.
Homework.
It's a great
complaining about math
story.
and you're giving us homework?
Yes, but it is a great story, and it's a really great movie, and they explain it so well. And they have this chick from the NSA that talks about how horrible it was that they were doing that. I'm like, and to her credit, she's kind of a whistleblower because she told the story. But I mean, she tells the story like 10 years later or 5 years later. I'm like, if you wanted to be a whistleblower, why didn't you like stop it and tell us before it happened? Like, she worked on the project for years. And you're telling us after the fact. This is not really helping that much, but whatever. Thanks for telling us. So yeah, but it's a fascinating story, and we made it, and we made it with Israel, and we pointed it at Iran, and gee, I don't know why they don't like us, but it is part of the reason that Iran has a better cyber operation now.
Than they should.
Yeah, than they should, right, and that's exactly how you put it every time, and I mean, you're right, they have a better cyber operation than they should. And I think that's true of North Korea too.
Well, they eventually got their hands on it as well, so.
Well, somebody shut down their internet. Right? I'm sure it wasn't us. Right? Oh, it could have been anybody. It could have been Japan.
Some people shut down some internets.
Yeah, some people did something to their
Wait
internet.
a minute, is that what happened to me tonight?
Possibly, it could be anybody. We know how the Russians like to play around or not. The Russians are not like to play around with stuff. But yeah, that's another story for another night. Sometimes you think it's Russians, and it's not really. Sometimes it's, a skid that's married to somebody in the Hill campaign. But that's right, and that's why the title of tonight's show is, it's not really hacking if nobody's doing it. Right? Both of these two stories were like, it's hacking, but it's not. But Russia did really hack Georgia. That's real.
That's real.
That one was real. And that was hacking because somebody was doing it. And it was really hacking. And they weren't logged in. They weren't doing it from an AWS server.
Right. God damn.
I know, that's so crazy. It's so dumb.
Well, where can people find you?
Is that me? Are we finished?
We are almost a quarter past.
It was almost too fun a show to stop.
I know.
Right. I am at Cyber War Podcast on Twitter, and I'm here. And we're going to be bringing you live from CPAC 4 to 6. I know Thursday and Friday. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We are going to be bringing you KLRNRadio live from CPAC 4 to 6
And that's 4 to Eastern time?
4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then, throughout the night, we might not have all of our regular shows, but we'll have some of them. You'll be on, Rick will be on, you and Fu will be on Wednesday.
Yes, this Wednesday is the return of Fu Bar. One Nation Under Fu. We are going to be alternating every other week with the red wine. And this is the week back for that. Brad and I talked about it. We're going to try and put a show together for Culture Shift on Thursday. And hopefully we'll get that put together. He's at CPAC, I am not. So it's a logistics thing.
If he can't do it, you and I can do an extended Cyber Wars
okay.
time slot. You know what? You might catch an extended Cyber Wars in a time slot this coming week because the rest of the crew is at CPAC, and we don't know who will be on. Who will be able to get on when. So we might just throw our show back up one night.
You never know.
So fun. There's so much cyber stuff going on.
There always is. And we knew that was going to be a thing this year. Jeff, where can people find you?
Stoner Brewing Co. Twitter, here, every Monday, occasionally on Fridays, and behind the scenes, trying to figure out chat and all the other fun stuff.
He's here every Friday night doing In the Crease, and Jeff, you're not here.
Every other.
Yeah, every other Friday night, but not this Friday night, next Friday night, right?
Correct.
And I hope you've been enjoying our new website. in the chat and everything with it. And if you have any suggestions, let us know.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let us know. Tweet us. Tell Orty, though. Right? Because he said it, so he has to deal with it. Yeah. And thanks for tuning in tonight. It was a fun show to do. It was a little less serious than some of our other shows. But, yeah. We will be back next Monday night. And I'm serious about checking in. We might do an extra show this week because of everything that's going on and everybody being gone. But we love you guys. Let us know if you have cyber questions. We're always here to answer. Y'all have a great week.
Good night.